Coming up on this Wednesday edition of Daybreak, Korea will loosen service sector regulations in 7 key areas to boost growth, induce foreign investment and create jobs. As Pope Francis prepares to make his way to Korea for his first papal visit to Asia, the Korean Catholic Church says the pontiff will use his 5-day stay to embrace people who are suffering. Plus, the World Health Organization says untested drugs can be used to treat patients infected with the Ebola virus. Daybreak begins now.
Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, August 13th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, the government has unveiled some very ambitious plans to boost 7 key service industries, including healthcare, tourism and education. Presiding over a presidential trade and investment meeting on Tuesday, President Park Geun-hye said Korea's cutting-edge IT and medical services were being held back by outdated and unnecessary regulations. Our Hwang Ji-hye has more on the changes we can expect.
The government will cut red tape, write special laws, and promote competition to help develop 7 service sectors into a new growth engine. During a meeting led by President Park Geun-hye on Tuesday, the government identified medical, tourism, financial, distribution, software, contents, and education industries as promising service sectors and confirmed a string of measures to boost investment in them.
We will create momentum for our economy to escape from its heavy dependence on exports and the manufacturing industry, and will aim for growth that's led by the service sector and domestic demand.
It will streamline regulations to lure foreign for-profit hospitals and provide subsidies for hospitals that attract foreign patients to Korea. The plans call for more than doubling the number of foreign patients to 500,000 by 2017 from 210,000 last year. It will also push through 4 resort complex development plans on the islands of Yeongjong-do and Jeju that will boost investments by around $8.5 billion. Regulatory reform will also take place in the nation's financial sector. The government will gradually ease the current 15% limit on daily stock price movement to 30%. It expects the measure to stimulate the local stock market and strengthen the market's price-setting mechanism, although there are concerns that it could fuel stock price volatility. Overall, the measures, which come as part of President Park's 3-year economic innovation plan, are expected to boost investment by around $14.5 billion and create 180,000 jobs. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
And that's not all that was happening on Tuesday, because the Trade Ministry also announced plans to help locally focus small and mid-sized companies find overseas customers as part of a campaign to create even more jobs. Song Ji-sun has the details.
If things pan out as the government hopes, some 10,000 small and mid-sized companies will find new buyers overseas to more than double their sales in the next 3 years. That, ministry officials say, will likely more than triple the number of workers employed by these companies. They cited a report by the Korea International Trade Association saying job growth at exporting companies is 4 times higher than those relying solely on the domestic market. The Trade Ministry will designate scores of trading houses to help match the companies with foreign buyers and develop a program to dispatch retired trading experts to help them utilize new export channels. In a meeting with trade officials on Tuesday, President Park Geun-hye stressed the need for the government to provide support for the smaller companies that lack experience when they expand overseas.
내수 판매만 하던 중소 중견기업이 수출 시장에 뛰어드는 것은 수영장에서 수영하던 사람이 바다 수영에 도전하는 것과 같다고 생각합니다.
The government will also take steps to make online commerce more profitable for them by streamlining online documentation procedures by the end of this month. In addition, the government will set aside additional $1.6 billion in soft loans to help these new exporters link up with overseas customers and provide better insurance arrangements to protect them from currency fluctuations. 송지선, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea is very proud to welcome Pope Francis to the country this week for a 5-day visit, and ahead of his highly anticipated and historic arrival on this Thursday, the Catholic Church in Korea has released a very special message. Our Park Ji-hye tells us more.
Ahead of the Pope's 5-day visit to Korea later this week, the Catholic Church in Korea released a special statement on Tuesday.
I think the Pope's traveling to Korea, the farthest eastern part of Asia, because the Pope wishes to pray for peace on the Korean Peninsula and in Asia.
The Pope's visit aims to embrace people who are suffering.
Pope Francis always reaches out to people in need of help and those who are suffering. I believe the Pope will deliver a message of consolation and of hope to those whose hearts have been broken in the spirit of St. Peter.
During his trip, the Pope plans to meet with people from diverse walks of life, including Korean victims of Japan's wartime sex enslavement and the bereaved families of those who died in April's ferry disaster. And now, with only a couple of days until the Pope's visit, the country is in full swing preparing for the Holy Father's visit. The preparatory committee says extreme care will be paid to protecting the 77-year-old Pope, and they are going over his schedule and the rehearsals for the event. An official media center has been set up at a short distance from Myeongdong Cathedral. It will be open from Wednesday through Monday for the some 2,800 reporters from all the world who are covering the papal visit. Park Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea continues to wait for a response from North Korea regarding its offer to hold high-level inter-Korean talks next week on family reunions and other very pressing issues. But Pyongyang's official media is pressing ahead with its hostile campaign against the South Korean government. Seoul appears determined, though, to soothe tensions on the peninsula. Hwang Ji-hye reports.
A day after South Korea's surprise proposal for dialogue, North Korea threatened further provocation should Seoul and Washington go ahead with their joint Ulji Freedom Guardian military exercises next week. North Korea's state-run Nodong Sinmun warned Tuesday its threats of retaliation against such war games should not be taken as empty words. It accused the South of turning a blind eye on nuclear threats from the United States, while wickedly pressing Pyongyang to give up what it calls justified nuclear program in the North as a precondition to building trust. This as Seoul awaits Pyongyang's response to its offer for high-level talks next Tuesday at the border village of Panmunjom to discuss issues of mutual concern. Seoul officials have indicated that the South is willing to discuss Pyongyang's demands to lift South Korean sanctions on North Korea and allow southern tourists to resume tours to the North Korean resort of Mount Kumgang. The offer for dialogue followed Seoul's decision to provide Pyongyang more than $13 million in aid through the World Food Program and the World Health Organization. President Park Geun-hye is expected to introduce further measures to better ties in her Liberation Day speech on Friday. The shift in tone comes after months of tensions between the two Koreas. But whether Seoul will stick to its fresh strategy of using the carrot will depend entirely on Pyongyang's next move. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Now, a group of North Korean defectors have been captured in China as they were trying to cross the border into Laos. A close source said 10 North Korean women and 1 child were arrested in the Chinese border city of Kunming on Tuesday morning local time. Defectors trying to make it into Southeast Asian countries from China must cross the border from Kunming. But city officials have bolstered their surveillance operations since earlier this year. South Korea's foreign ministry says it has contacted the foreign ministry in China requesting the safety of the defectors and that they be sent to a region of their choosing.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
A statue that honors the thousands of Korean women who were used as sex slaves by Japanese soldiers before and during World War II can and now will remain in the U.S. city of Glendale. The Los Angeles Times reports that a federal judge dismissed a lawsuit on the removal of the monument last week. The judge decided that the Japanese-American plaintiffs did not prove sufficiently that they had suffered from the placement of the statue in the city's main park. Since the installment last summer, the memorial statue has been at the center of debate, but most city officials and most residents want it to stay put. According to historians, roughly 200,000 women and girls, mostly Korean, but also from elsewhere in Asia, were rounded up and forced into brothels and raped by Japanese soldiers. Japan is looking to establish 10 inhabited remote islands near its national borders as special border remote islands to promote the islands' protection and development. According to Japanese government sources, a bill that's likely to be submitted to Parliament in the fall will call on the government to construct self-defense force facilities on the islands. Candidates for these special border remote islands include the Oki Islands in Japan. The Oki Islands are about 160 kilometers away from Korea's Dokdo Island. Meanwhile, on a semi-related note, Japan's Kyodo News Agency reported on Tuesday that over 100 senior maritime self-defense force officers paid a visit to the Yasukuni War Shrine back in May, this is. Korea and Japan see the shrine as a celebration of Japan's past militarism, as several Class A war criminals are laid to rest there. Now, a group of Japanese firms are planning a test flight next year of the nation's first homegrown stealth fighter jet. The consortium, led by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, is reportedly developing a jet that has similar technology to the US-made F-35 stealth fighters. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
This is Japan's new generation of stealth fighter jets, the Shinshin. It's 14 meters long and equipped with double engines to produce extra lift and power control mid-air. It's largely aimed at rivaling the stealth capability of China's fighter jets, the Zen-20, which will be combat-ready in 2017. The latest model, manufactured by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, is being prepared for flight experiments in January of next year, and the Japanese Defense Ministry says it's expected to put them into use by the year 2030.
Up until now, airplanes faced risks of damage if the front part tilted upwards. However, with the alteration of the exhaust system, the new model is designed to fly fast even if the front part tilted upwards.
The development of high-tech weaponry by the Japanese government is being met with concerns that it will trigger an arms race in Northeast Asia, already plagued with unresolved territorial and historical spats. It also comes as Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party plans to propose a bill to expand the range of military activity of its self-defense forces in the region. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
On now to the ongoing probe into April's tragic ferry disaster, and prosecutors have decided not to indict the late, now deceased, de facto owner of the sunken Seoul-Ho ferry Yu Byung-un for embezzlement and tax evasion. Prosecutors said in their interim report on Tuesday that there was no legal basis to pursue charges against the now dead Mr. Yu. However, the prosecution has indicted his eldest son, Yoo Dae-gyun, on charges of misappropriating more than $7 million US, as well as two others for helping him evade capture. The Yu family's corrupt business practices, including overloading the vessel with cargo, are widely believed to have led to the ferry sinking that killed more than 300 people. Now, 1,800 Hyundai car owners here in Korea will be eligible to receive around about $400 US in compensation over inaccurate information regarding fuel mileage. But the payout most likely won't be enough to settle a number of lawsuits against Korea's biggest automaker. Our Son Jung-in reports.
In a press release Tuesday, Hyundai Motor said it has decided to revise the fuel economy label on its Santa Fe model vehicles from 14.4 kilometers per liter of diesel to 13.8 kilometers and compensate owners up to $390. The company said the voluntary measure is in response to a ruling by Korea's Transportation Ministry, which said the fuel economy of the mid-size SUV was exaggerated and instructed them to take follow-up measures. Hyundai denies intentionally exaggerating its fuel economy figures and added that some discrepancies could occur in the mileage depending on the standards and methods of calculation. They came up with a $390 figure by calculating the national average for mileage of SUVs, which came to 14,527 kilometers per year. The compensation does not preclude Hyundai Motor from lawsuit, though. The owners of nearly 1,800 vehicles spread over 6 different models, including the Santa Fe, have filed suits seeking up to around $3,000 for failure to state the correct fuel efficiency. A lawyer working on behalf of the group said they cannot accept the $390 in compensation as it is too low, nearly half of what companies in the U.S. would offer. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through some of the international headlines we're following on this Wednesday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim standing by the news centre. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning, Mark. We begin with an update on that Ebola outbreak. The virus has appeared to claim its first casualty outside of West Africa. The Spanish priest who had contracted the hemorrhagic virus while serving in Liberia has died while under observation in Madrid. He had been the third recipient of the test drug ZMapp following 2 American medical volunteers whose conditions are reportedly improving after reacting favorably to the serum. And relatedly, the World Health Organization has approved the use of experimental drugs in the treatment of Ebola patients. Following discussions amongst medical experts in Switzerland on Monday, the WHO concluded it is ethical to use unlicensed medication in light of the scale of the outbreak and the number of deaths, which has exceeded 1,000, according to the latest figures released. They also stressed that the effectiveness and possible adverse effects of the drugs were not yet fully known. The maker of the test serum ZMapp has said its supply is now exhausted after its final doses were sent to a West African nation. Liberia confirmed that it would treat 2 infected doctors with the test serum, the first Africans to receive the treatment. Hundreds of unmarked white trucks are headed for Ukraine from Russia after Kiev cleared the Red Cross for a humanitarian mission participated by Russia, the EU, and the U.S. But the convoy raised concerns even as it left Moscow to the rebel-held city of Luhansk in eastern Ukraine. As the Red Cross said it needed more information and security guarantees, Moscow insists the trucks did hold hundreds of tons of grain, baby food, and medicine for civilians trapped in the fighting. But the West is concerned that it may be a cover for an invasion. Ukraine has said that all aid must be delivered by the International Red Cross. Tens of thousands of Yazidis are believed to still be trapped on Mount Sinjar in northern Iraq as Kurdish forces, backed by U.S. airstrikes, engage Islamic State fighters for control of the region. In a statement, the United Nations said an estimated 20,000 to 30,000 people remain without food, water, or shelter and needed life-saving assistance. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon described their plight as especially harrowing and urged world leaders to do more to help. U.S. airstrikes continued Tuesday with a drone targeting an IS mortar near Kurdish troops. And preliminary results of a forensic examination have showed that American actor and comedian Robin Williams likely ended his life by hanging himself. An autopsy was conducted on Tuesday. Williams was discovered unconscious and not breathing in his home in Northern California after police received an emergency call shortly before noon. Officials from Marin County Sheriff's Office said his personal assistant had found Williams in his bedroom, seated with a belt around his neck. Toxicology results will take 3 to 6 weeks, according to sheriff's officials.
And a good Wednesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the Incheon Asian Games, as the KFA's technical committee held a meeting on Tuesday to finalize the roster for the football squad. Now, with the meeting led by the head technical committee, Lee Young-soo, they have finalized the Asian Games roster, but will announce it on Thursday. Now, some of the topics of discussion include the 3 wildcard players to choose from, as many expect Ulsan Hyundai Tigers' Kim Shin-wook and Kim Sung-gyu to be chosen as 2 of the 3 wildcards. Meanwhile, Bayer Leverkusen have yet to give Son Heung-min the green light to play in the upcoming games in September, but is expected to be on the roster either way. And now shifting over to golf, where Hall of Fame golfer Park Geun-hye announced that she will host her own golf tournament here in Korea, making her just the 2nd Korean golfer to do so. Now, following PGA golfer Chae Kyung-ju and his KJ Choi Invitational, the Park Geun-hye Invitational will take place for the first time in the southern city of Yeoju from October 3rd to the 5th. Now, Park, who's known as the pioneer for female golfers here in Korea, became the youngest living Hall of Fame inductee at the age of 29 and has won 25 LPGA titles so far, including 2 majors. And now moving over to baseball, where Japan's Baseball Weekly graded the 70 foreign players currently playing in Japan's MPB. And for Korea's very own Oh Seung-hwan and Lee Dae-ho, they received passing grades. Now, first off, for former Samsung Lions closer Oh Seung-hwan, who's currently playing for the Hanshin Tigers, received an A after posting an ERA of 1.83 and 28 saves this season. The article praised his fastball as he's enjoying a great first season in Japan. Meanwhile, for big boy Lee Dae-ho, who's currently in his 3rd season, he was given a passing grade of C after putting up .303 batting average with 12 home runs and 45 RBIs so far this season. Now, despite a rather low grade, the article stated that his role as the cleanup hitter is worth the contract he received this past offseason. And now finishing things off with some Tuesday night KBO action, the Kia Tigers cruised past the NC Dinos 4-1, with the Nexen Heroes crushing the Lotte Giants 10-1, and the SK Wyverns beat the LG Twins 7-3. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Tucson Bears take on the Hanwha Eagles. And of course, going into the game here, we go over to the bottom of the 1st. Kim Tae-gyun grounds 1 to 3rd, forced out at 2nd, but an E4 scores Lee Young-gi from 2nd, and Hanwha takes an early 1-0 lead. But the 5th inning of the game, Min Byung-hun at bat with a clutch 2-run single to right gives the Tucson Bears the 2-1 lead. Next play, Jorge Cantu grounds 1 to short, but this error leads to Cantu going all the way to 3rd, and 2 runners to score as Tucson takes the lead 4-1. Bottom of the 7th inning, Tucson up 6-1. Hanwha rallies back to score 5 runs to tie the game 6-6. But we shift over to the 8th inning of the game. Choi Ju-hwan deep to right, gone a 3-run shot, and Tucson takes the lead again 9-6. But check this out, bottom of the 8th inning, Felix P.A., he's going to hit a game-tying 3-run shot again, but in the 9th, with a man on, Yang Lee-ji with a 2-run shot to right, and the Tucson Bears finally win this game 11-9. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, it feels like we are going through 2 seasons in just one day. Cool and breezy morning turns to pretty hot afternoon. Well, the weather pattern should be much of the same as yesterday for today, but the temperatures in the whole peninsula will be lower as the readings will rise below 30 degrees Celsius. And mostly cloudy skies will kick off the day today in the peninsula. Then it should gradually overcast throughout the day, and spotty rain is in the forecast in the southern regions, and it will gradually spread to other areas. With that, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The high in Seoul will rise to 27, while Daegu will get up to 29, while Gwangju and Busan will rise to 28 this afternoon. And for other regions, it looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon will top out at 28 and 27, and Dokdo should see highs of 26 later in the day. Now, please be aware that the level of dust particles are a bit higher than the average in some of the inland regions, including here in Seoul, so you might want to close the window while you're driving this morning. Well, that's all for me at this hour. Have a wonderful day.
Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour, but Korea Today is coming up in half an hour with plenty more stories, and we'll be back throughout the day with many more news updates, and I'll be back at 10 a.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.